Hello, everybody. This is Coach Raza here, and in this video, we're going to go ahead and cover points, lines, and planes, which is the first unit in geometry for this year. So I'm going to go over keywords, notation, and different types of problems that you may encounter in this unit. So make sure you're following along. So as we're going through here, we got the review here. So it kind of gives you an idea of what you have to go ahead and look at for the first test. So just throwing it out there, it's really much about how you go ahead and look at this picture, more so on what you're focused on. So, and also understanding the proper notations, as you can tell, the arrows, the cursive letters, and looking for the little bars that you see up here, little lines that we can go ahead and identify. So all those are very key. And also knowing the differences between the words between and midpoint as we're going. So we'll go ahead and cover that majority of it, and I can go ahead and do. Okay, so what do you understand for points, lines, and planes? Now, for a point, what we know is that it's initially just a dot with just a letter on it. Now, in this case, this would be considered point A. Now, one way to go and get the proper notation is initially like writing it into like a sentence. Is that you're going to say point A, or you could just write as capital A for this one. So and this was actually it's probably the easiest one out of all of them. So if you have like another letter, let's say this one, you would go ahead and say point Z, and then or you'll just say Z for the notation. Okay. So next one that we have gone is that we have line. Now for a line, what it's going to go ahead and take is that it takes 2 points. So a point is just one. A line takes 2 points. So in this case, we'll call this line A, B right next to each other. No space, no commas, no nothing, and with a double arrows on top. And you can also write it as line, in this cursive letter, M. Okay? So there's 2 ways of going about it. Now, the combination of these, you can also call it line BA, depending on which way you're going. But remember, no comma, no, and no space in between. Now, the other part, for planes. Oh, wait. So if we have line, we also have line segment. So what's the difference between it? What's the difference between this segment in comparison to this line? Now, if you're wondering, and you're like, oh, I see, it's these little arrows right here. You're correct, okay? Now, as we're going with it, these are called endpoints. So you have 2 endpoints that ended up being here. So this would be line segment AB, except you have a little bar on top. Line segment AB or BA, and that's going to be where it stops. Or you can just simply call it line segment AB or line segment BA. But the proper notation is right here. So this is what I want. Okay? So let's see what we can go and find here now. Okay, next part. So we have something called a plane. So what is a plane? Initially, a plane is just a setup of 3 points on the same surface. So if we got like a piece of paper, and I drew my blue piece of paper right here, and points A, B, and C were on top of it. So this would be considered plane A, B, C. Or you could call it B, C, A, or you can go ahead and call it C, A, B in this case. So you have 3 different names for it so far. Now, the other way you can call it is that you can also call it plane J, because it's my little cursive letter over here. These are points, they're attached at the very edge of it. So they're here and they're here. So just be aware of it. When you look for the cursive letter, that's going to go ahead and be a plane, the name of it. Okay. Now the other part, what's a ray? A ray is initially like an endpoint, like a point, and it's pointing in a direction. So in this one, it'll be called ray A, B, and then you're pointing towards that direction. If you call it this way, you're correct. If you call it this way, then you're wrong. We don't want this. This is a no-no. We do not want that. Okay? So because you're not pointing at B to A, you're not pointing in that direction. Now, sometimes you'll run into problems that look just like this one down here. And what needs to happen is that you need to go identify what's the ray that you have. You always start at the end point or the center of if you have something that comes like this and it's asking for opposite rays, always start at the center of it. So you have ray X, Y, and you're pointing it towards Y. And then what's the other one? X points to what? Y. I mean A, my fault. It'll be A in this case. So ray X, A. So there you go. So that's what we have so far for that one. So these will be considered opposite rays. So just make sure you go ahead and understand which ones you have to work with. Ray, opposite rays. Ray only has one, opposite rays has two. So this is the main notations that you have to go ahead and understand when you're working with the first unit so far. Just it's initially what you're looking at. So you got to train your eyes on what you're focused on. Okay, so the next pair is that you have collinear and then you have non-collinear, and then you have coplanar and non-coplanar. So obviously one's going to go ahead and be the opposite of the other. So the way we look at this is that you identify what's coplanar. So what's the difference between coplanar and non-coplanar here? So this is my whole example, and this is my whole example. If you notice that this E is on the outside, it's there for a reason. There's ABC here and with E in it. So coplanar is when all the points are on inside of the plane. So all points are inside, they're on. Here, if you have all these points and they're outside, then that's considered non-coplanar. So if I say, are my points X, Y, Z, E coplanar? It's going to be no, because E is not inside the box. A, B, C, E is considered coplanar. So all points on the plane. Okay? So if I ask you, are all my points coplanar? No, all points are not on the plane. So all points are not on the plane. So what you need to go ahead and understand is that if I say a combination, is Z and E, are they both coplanar? No, because E and Z are going to be non-coplanar. If I say X and Y, are they coplanar or non-coplanar? So X and Y, they're going to be considered coplanar because they're both inside the same plane. Okay? So just a little bit of a few examples from here that you can go ahead and use. Now, collinear and non-collinear. The way I describe this one is that if you're on the lunch line and all your friends are in the same line, you're collinear, and that's fair, okay? So you have A and B, and then you have C. Are they collinear? Yes. So yes, they are, okay? All on the same line. But what about this one here? So you see that kid that's in the lunch line, and he's your buddy, and then you see the other kid that wants to go ahead and cut, right? That's the kid that you always see. He's considered non-collinear because he's not in the same line with you. So are A, B, and C collinear? No, because they're not on the same line. Okay, so just be aware. You can say B and C are considered non-collinear. And in this case, B and C are collinear. Okay, so just be aware of these things that's going on. So if you understand your notation, then you'll be great. If you understand these terminologies right here, these differences, these pictures, then you should be well off. Now, as we're going through this, you notice that the words between and midpoint are highlighted because they're very important. So we have to go ahead and make a line that we have going. You have to draw it. And so in this case, you have X and Z, and then Y somewhere in between. So it can be somewhere in between any one of these little lines that just literally just marked on here, little tallies. It can be any one of these. So same thing goes for midpoint. So if I have H and then I have K, J is the midpoint of line segment HK. Oh, midpoint means it's half. So that means, or it's the halfway of HK. So it's right here. So there's always a definite side, a definite point for J in this case, because it said midpoint, it's halfway through it. Between goes anywhere. So if I were y'all, I would go ahead and just pick something like, go here, 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 and I can go here. So it makes, you can exaggerate it, okay? Now, you have different types of problems to go ahead and work with. So let's focus on the first one. So example 0. So between, what I do is I use yellow and blue equals to what color? Yellow plus blue equals the color green. So this is considered green. Now, if we're trying to go ahead and solve for this one, we'll solve for the line segment, we need to go ahead and set up our equation. So you have A and B plus B and C equal to AC. So we'll have 2x plus 40 equal to 80. And then we could just go ahead and use regular math to go ahead and solve for this one. So x equals to 20. Now, this is how you go and solve for it. Sometimes they'll ask you to go and solve for a certain line segment and so forth, and you can plug it back into whichever color you need to find, yellow, blue, or green. Just how, this is just to go ahead and guide you how to set it up. Now, from here, what we need to go ahead and do is that we need to go ahead and identify which one's which. So in midpoint, it says half. So you'll come up with some scenarios where if you're trying to make yellow and blue, yellow and blue. But if you notice, there's no green because it never gave you a third part to this. So especially for example 1. So example 1, they only gave you 2 parts and it told you it was a midpoint problem. So what needs to happen here is that we need to go ahead and solve for how to set it up. So you can make a little seesaw. And so I know that it's halfway through. And I know that this part represents 5x plus 10, which is equal to whatever's on the right side, which is 2x plus 40. Now, solve for x from here. Make sure you show full steps because if you just give me scribble scrabble, I do not want that. Minus 10, 3x equals to 30, divided by 3, x equals to 10. You have to show full work in what you're doing. Don't just go ahead and just give me the final answer. So x equals 10. And then usually you're asked to go ahead and plug it into something. Now, the next one is a little bit different because if you try and do yellow and blue, you're given yellow and they gave you green over here. And then now you have to go and look for blue here. So we don't know what that represents, but I do know it's a half, and for this example too, I know it represents the midpoint problem. So what needs to happen here is that I'm gonna go ahead and just, if I know the left side's already 5x and it's halfway through because it's the midpoint, then what's on the other side? 5x plus 10. So from here, now you have yellow and blue equals to green. So you have 5x plus 10 plus 5x plus 10 equal to 100. Solve for it. You can go and combine like terms. So 10x plus 20 is equal to 100. Minus 20 equals to 80. Divide by 10. And then you get x equals to 8. So there you go. And then you go ahead and plug it into whatever you need to. Okay? So initially, what happens is you can double this yellow part and makes it come over here. But you have to be given that green part first. So you can go and do that. So be aware of what you're working with when you're dealing with midpoint. Be aware of what you're looking for in between. Yellow and blue equals green. So these three types of problems is what you're going to go ahead and encounter for the first unit. So you have to, it's all about setting it up. So first step, set up the equation. Next step, you just go ahead and solve it. Okay, just like we did. So this is initially all of unit 1. This video is just for review purposes. So it kind of touches a little bit upon everything that's on the review. Okay. All right. Well, tune in next time for the next video.